He pressed the controls super fast and beat the same game for the 100th time. Now, he really wanted the new game. He pressed the controls super fast and beat the same game for the 100th time. Now, he really wanted the new game, but it was just way too expensive. He got a text from his girlfriend, Mary. But it was just way too expensive. He got a text from his girlfriend, Mary. Let's not do gifts this year and just save our money instead. Sound good? He glanced at her camera on the shelf. It had slipped from her hands weeks ago, causing a crack in the lens. And every photo she took since had a line running right through the middle. He really wanted to get her a new lens for Christmas, which means he needed extra cash. First, he walked dogs around the city. Then, he went around the neighborhood, shoveling snow. He delivered food throughout the night, even skipping meals just to save every dollar. But by Christmas Eve, he still didn't have enough. He looked down at his game console, his favorite thing, and knew what he had to do. He biked through the snow and sold it for just enough to buy Mary the new lens. On Christmas morning, he handed her a small box wrapped in newspaper. She teared up as she lifted it out of the box. Then she smiled and handed him a box of her own. Inside was the new game, the one that he had wanted all year. He was confused. How could she afford this? And that's when he noticed the empty space on the shelf where her camera used to sit. She had sold it, just like he sold his game console. And even though they couldn't use their gifts, they both ended up with something better. He pressed the controls super fast and beat the He pressed the Alexander the Great's body was sealed inside the tomb, but he may have still been alive. You see, he should have decomposed, but as his body sat for 6 days before the funeral, some say it stayed perfectly preserved. Now, at the time, people thought this meant he was a god, but today, some scientists think he became totally paralyzed before they pronounced him dead, meaning he might not have been dead at all. Instead, he could have suffocated in his tomb, or been cut open and had his organs removed as they embalmed him. Alexander, they would yank the blood-sucking creature off the fish, then stab its brain before squeezing out its blood. The blood would be boiled with red wine to make a sauce, while the rest of the lamprey was baked. It was then served to royalty, covered in the blood sauce. And this dish was eaten on Christmas Eve, when Christians weren't allowed to eat meat. You see, lamprey is fatty and meaty, even though it's technically a fish, making it a perfect loophole for rich people who wanted to eat meat when they shouldn't. They would yank the blood-sucking creature off the fish, then stab its brain before squeezing out its blood. The blood would be boiled with red wine to make a sauce. He pressed the control. They would yank. He got into the shell, and the dome was locked in place. As he turned the head, R2-D2 did the same, but turning too far choked him with wires, so he had to be careful with his movements. They swapped in a smaller remote-controlled robot for scenes where R2 rolled in the swamps, while puppeteers used hidden wires to yank it around for complicated scenes, creating the illusion of a robot that's alive. He got into the shell. They loaded thousands of Christmas trees and set sail, even though a dangerous storm was coming. You see, he was known as Captain Santa, and he would set sail across the lake to deliver Christmas trees to waiting families. But this time, snow started falling, and the waves rocked the ship. The The captain began to panic, raising a distress flag. A rescue boat was launched, but the trees were too heavy, and the ship sank before anyone could arrive. Captain Santa drowned, along with 9 other crew members. Christmas trees washed ashore for weeks after, and to this day, the Christmas trees still lay at the bottom of Lake Michigan. They loaded thousands of Christmas trees and set sail, even though a dangerous storm was coming. You see, he was known as Captain Santa, and his plane was shot, and plastic shards from the windshield tore into his eyes. Now, at the hospital, the surgeon noticed something strange. You see, injuries like these usually cause swelling as your body tries to get rid of the foreign objects. But the plastic pieces didn't activate his immune system, meaning they could stay in his body for a long time without any harm. Now he figured if he could put this kind of plastic in someone's eyes, he could replace their damaged lens, curing their blindness. And he eventually invented the first permanent contacts. Now millions of people can see again, all thanks to one pilot's injury. His plane was shot, and plastic shards from the windshield tore into his eyes. Now, at the hospital, the surgeon noticed something strange. You see, injuries like these usually cause swelling as your body tries to get rid of the foreign objects. But the plastic pieces didn't activate his immune system. The enemy bullet sliced right through his chin strap, knocking the helmet off his head. They were trapped in trenches just a few hundred feet apart, fighting each other for weeks on end. He had stopped thinking of them as men. They were just targets in the dark. But one day, for some reason, the gunfire stopped. For the first time in weeks, everything was still. In the quiet, he remembered what day it was, Christmas Eve. He lifted a lantern above the trench and began to sing a Christmas song. Stille Nacht, heilige Nacht. From across the field, another voice joined in. Then more. Enemy voices on both sides, all singing along. He stood up, climbed out of the trench, and stepped into the battlefield. Slowly, soldiers from both sides started to follow. They met in the middle, shaking hands on the ground right where their fellow soldiers had previously died. Some started sharing chocolate and showing photos of their families. They played football, traded souvenirs, and told each other stories. They even posed for photos together, because for once, they finally saw each other not as enemies, but as fellow men. When dawn broke, the lanterns burned out and orders came down the line. The Christmas truce was over. He returned to his trench, gripping the same rifle, and across the field, the men he had sung with the night before raised their guns too. The enemy bullet sliced right through his chin strap, knocking the helmet off his head. They were trapped in trenches just a few hundred feet apart, fighting each other for weeks on end. He had stopped thinking of them as men. They were just targets in the dark. But one day, for some reason, the gunfire. If you hold a balloon over a candle, the flame will weaken the rubber and it'll pop instantly. But if you fill the balloon with water and lower it over the flame, the heat goes into the water instead of staying in the rubber. Then the water spreads the heat out before it can build up in one spot, acting like a shield around the rubber. This means the rubber never gets hot enough to melt, so the water-filled balloon does not pop. If you hold a balloon over a candle, the flame will weaken the rubber and it'll pop instantly. But if you fill the balloon with water and lower it over the flame, They hid the poison inside a fake perfume bottle and put it on his door handle to kill him on contact. But the man was quickly taken to the hospital before the poison killed him, so they tossed the bottle into the trash. But months later, a man found it in a donation bin and gave the bottle to his partner. She sprayed it on her wrists, and the poison seeped into her skin, eventually shutting down her organs and killing her 8 days later. They hid the poison inside a fake perfume bottle and put it on his door handle to kill him on contact. But the man was quickly taken to the hospital before the poison killed him, so they tossed the bottle into the trash. But months later, the animal is skinned and the hide is scraped clean. Next, tree bark is soaked in water until it turns dark. Then the hide is dropped in. The natural acids from the bark slowly bind to the skin, which stops it from decomposing. Over the next few weeks, the hide is moved through stronger solutions, and each new solution binds more acids to the proteins in the skin, which toughens the fibers. At the same time, it dyes the skin, making it darker. And when it's done, the leather is strong, durable, and resistant to rot. The animal is skinned and the hide is scraped. His friend shot an arrow at the gas canister on his head. You see, he had just joined a men's rafting group, and this was part of his initiation. But they were both drunk, and the arrow missed the can, hitting him instead. As it shot through his skull, it somehow missed all major blood vessels before coming out the back. And the man stayed conscious the entire time. Doctors treated him by drilling around the arrowhead and pulling the rest through. And even though he lost his eye, he survived without any brain damage. They caught the shark and tied the line to the back of the boat. And as it began to swim, their boat actually started to move. You see, they had been lost at sea for weeks after their GPS failed. They drank salt water, ate raw fish, and fought to stay alive. And when they finally caught the shark, they rigged it up like an engine. And for 3 days, it dragged their boat across the ocean until it finally died. But in the distance, they saw an island. And after 33 days lost at sea, they finally reached land. They caught the shark. They pulled a live eel out of the man's belly. You see, the man had come in complaining of severe pain. And when doctors pushed on his abdomen, it was rock hard. When they stuck a camera inside, they saw the eel, and it was moving. Now, some say this was part of some strange folk cure, but he never said how it actually got in there. They pulled a live eel out of. She would slide into the chair's hollow frame and hidden panels, folding her body tight inside. The magician wheels it out on stage, showing how normal the chair is from all angles. Then he throws the cloth over it and shakes it, letting the woman quickly open the chair and climb out. And just as she gets into position, the magician whips away the cloth, creating the illusion that she appeared from nowhere. She would slide into the chairs. Santa's sleigh would need to be larger than the Great Pyramid to hold all of the world's presents. You see, there are about 1 billion kids on Earth, and if each one gets around 3 gifts, and each gift weighs about 1 pound, there would be 3 billion pounds of presents in total. His 9 reindeer wouldn't stand a chance with this thing, meaning he would need over 7 million, and they would have to fly millions of miles per hour just to meet the deadline. That speed would make the reindeer, Santa, and all the presents vaporize. Santa's sleigh would need to be larger than the Great Pyramid to hold all of the world's presents. Slip the nail inside the claw and wedge it in tight. Then line it up to the right place and give it one sharp hit. He would look at the guard's key and instantly memorize the pattern. Then he would file a piece of scrap metal into the exact same shape and let himself out of prison. You see, as an autistic child, he had a special talent for mechanics, and when his father died, he left his tools to him. But his stepmother called the police, since the will hadn't been read yet. He was sentenced to 4 years, but after just a month, he climbed over the razor wire fence and ran. Now, this added more time to his sentence, as well as solitary confinement. But once he was back in his cell, he used a makeshift saw to cut through the bars. Another time, he made a zip gun from a tube of toothpaste, pointing it at the prison guards as he ran. And after 13 escape attempts, his sentence stretched to 34 years. 13 escape attempts, his sentence stretched to 34 years, with 27 of those spent in solitary confinement. And even though people have protested, he's still in prison to this day. When you sit to poop, the position actually